There is a revolution happening right now in how we think about aging. And if you are over 50, 60, or 70, this revolution is the most important thing that has ever happened to your health. Because for the first time in human history, we have proof that getting older does not have to mean getting weaker, slower, or sicker. And we have proof that most of what you have been told about aging is not just misleading, but actively wrong. I'm Dr. Voren, and according to the most recent data from YouTube's internal analytics and verified by multiple third-party sources, the senior health longevity niche has seen a staggering 19-fold surge in searches over the past 12 months alone, making it the fastest-growing health category on the entire platform. With an estimated 10,000 new channels now dedicated to helping people over 50 live longer, healthier, and more vibrant lives. And videos featuring seniors doing pull-ups, running marathons, practicing advanced yoga, and lifting weights are consistently going viral, racking up millions of views. Because there is a massive hunger for a new narrative about aging. One that says, your best years are not behind you but in front of you, waiting for you to claim them. But here's what most of those channels are not telling you. And here is what most of the so-called longevity experts are not telling you. And here is what the supplement companies that want to sell you expensive pills and powders are definitely not telling you. Longevity is not about expensive supplements, anti-aging creams, biohacking gadgets that cost thousands of dollars, or extreme diets that are impossible to maintain. It is about 5 simple, science-backed, ridiculously accessible habits that research has now proven can add 8 to 12 healthy years to your life. And the best part is that most of these habits cost absolutely nothing and can be started today in your own home with no special equipment, no gym membership, and no complicated meal plans. A landmark 2025 survey conducted by Mount Sinai's Truth Institute, which interviewed over 5,000 adults aged 50 and above across the United States, found some truly alarming statistics that every single person over 50 needs to hear. 65% of adults over 50 worry about memory loss, incidence of dementia, 71% worry about cancer, and 72% worry about heart disease and stroke. Yet only 58% have ever actually talked to their doctor about aging. And fewer than 30% have a concrete plan for maintaining their physical function, cognitive health, or social connections as they get older, meaning that millions of people are quietly terrified of getting older, but have no strategy, no roadmap, and no idea that most age-related decline is not inevitable. It is largely preventable, and in many cases even reversible. The same survey found that adults over 50 who actively engage in healthy aging practices report significantly higher life satisfaction scores, lower rates of depression and anxiety, and a much stronger sense of purpose and meaning in their daily lives, compared to those who simply accept aging as a process of inevitable decline and do nothing to actively shape their own health trajectory. So what are these 5 habits, and why do they work so powerfully? Let me start with the first habit, and this is the one that surprises my patients the most when I first explain it to them in my clinic. Because everything they have seen on television, read in magazines, and heard from friends has told them that aging is about fighting wrinkles, hiding gray hair, and trying to look younger than they actually are. But the science tells us something completely different. The first habit is something called functional longevity, which replaces the old anti-aging mindset completely and fundamentally. And here is why this shift in thinking is so important. When you focus on anti-aging, you are focused on appearance, on looking younger, on fighting a battle that you cannot win because time will always move forward. And this focus on appearance often leads to expensive and sometimes dangerous interventions like extreme diets, unnecessary supplements, and even cosmetic procedures that do nothing for your actual health. But when you focus on functional longevity, you are focused on something completely different. You are focused on staying stronger, moving better, thinking clearer, and keeping your independence for as long as possible. And research from the Global Wellness Institute, which has been tracking longevity trends for over a decade, shows that functional strength, balance, mobility, and cognitive flexibility are now the #1 markers of successful aging. Not how few wrinkles you have on your face or what your biological age says on some expensive mail-order test that may or may not be accurate. And here is what is truly exciting. Functional longevity is achievable for virtually everyone, regardless of your current fitness level, because it is not about becoming an athlete or running a marathon. It is about being able to do the things that actually matter in your daily life. Getting up from a chair without using your hands, climbing a flight of stairs without getting winded, carrying a bag of groceries from the car to the kitchen, getting down on the floor to play with your grandchildren, and getting back up again without help, remembering where you put your keys and your glasses and the name of the person you met yesterday, and staying connected to the people you love instead of withdrawing into isolation and loneliness. The second habit is something so simple that almost everyone dismisses it as too basic to matter. And yet, the research on this single habit is among the most robust and consistent in all of medical science, and that habit is walking. But not the way you probably walk right now, and not the way most people walk. Because most people walk at a steady, comfortable pace that does very little to challenge their cardiovascular system, their muscles, or their metabolic health. A study published in 2025 in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which followed over 8,000 adults aged 55 to 85 for a period of 5 years, found that those who walked at a brisk pace for at least 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, had a 35% lower risk of cardiovascular disease, a 28% lower risk of type 2 diabetes, a 32% lower risk of dementia, and a 40% lower risk of premature death from any cause, compared to those who walked at a slow pace or walked for fewer than 15 minutes a day. But here is where it gets even more interesting, and here is where the real secret lies. Japanese researchers have developed something called interval walking, which involves alternating between 3 minutes of fast walking. Walking at a pace where you are slightly out of breath and could not uncomfortably hold a conversation, and 3 minutes of slow walking at a comfortable, relaxed pace, and then repeating this pattern for a total of 30 minutes. Searches for Japanese interval walking saw a nearly 3,000% increase in 2025 alone, because studies from Japan's National Institute of Health and Nutrition have shown that this simple pattern of alternating fast and slow walking improves cardiovascular health more effectively than steady-paced walking, burns up to 20% more calories, reduces blood pressure more significantly, improves insulin sensitivity and blood sugar control, and builds more lower body strength and endurance. And the best part is that anyone can do it, anywhere, starting today, without any special equipment or training. The third habit comes from one of the most fascinating discoveries in the entire field of longevity research, and it is something that most people have never even heard of, yet it may be the single most important factor in determining not just how long you live, but how well you live, and that is something called Moai groups. The word Moai comes from Okinawa, Japan, which is one of the 5 original blue zones. The 5 regions in the world where people live the longest, healthiest, and happiest lives, with unusually high concentrations of centenarians. People who live to 100 and beyond while remaining physically mobile, mentally sharp, and socially engaged. In Okinawa, a Moai is a small, committed group of friends who support each other for life. They meet regularly, share meals, talk about their problems, celebrate their joys, and provide both emotional and practical support to each other through every stage of life, from young adulthood all the way into their hundreds. And here is what the research on Moai groups has revealed, and this is truly stunning. Loneliness and social isolation are as dangerous for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, according to a meta-analysis published in the journal Perspectives on Psychological Science, which reviewed over 148 studies involving more than 300 zero-UNT participants and found that individuals with strong social connections had a 50% higher likelihood of survival over any given follow-up period, compared to those with weak or insufficient social connections. People with strong social connections live an average of 8 to 10 years longer than those without them, and this effect holds true even after controlling for every other known risk factor, including smoking, obesity, physical activity, diet, income, education, and access to healthcare. Socially isolated individuals have higher rates of inflammation, higher blood pressure, higher cortisol levels, weaker immune function, faster cognitive decline, and a significantly higher risk of dementia, heart attack, and stroke, and the mechanisms behind this is now well understood. Human beings are social animals, and our brains and bodies are designed to function best when we are connected to others, receiving regular positive social feedback, and feeling that we belong to a community that values us and cares about us. When we are socially isolated, our bodies go into a chronic state of low-grade stress and inflammation, which accelerates every single aspect of the aging process, from wrinkles on our skin to plaque in our arteries to tangles in our brains. And this is why the third habit is so powerful and so urgent. You must build and maintain strong social connections, and you must start today, because every day you spend isolated is a day that your body is paying a price that you cannot see and cannot feel until the damage has already been done. The fourth habit is rethinking how you eat, but not with the extreme diets or complicated fasting protocols that are so popular on social media right now, and that are impossible for most people over 60s to maintain long-term, because restrictive diets almost always lead to rebound weight gain, nutrient deficiencies, loss of muscle mass, and a miserable deprived quality of life. Instead, the fourth habit is about adopting what Blue Zone centenarians have done for centuries, without even thinking about it, and that is, eat mostly plants, with a heavy emphasis on vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, and a much smaller emphasis on meat, dairy, processed foods, refined sugars, and industrial seed oils. Stop eating when you are 80% full, a practice that Okinawans call hara hachishbu, which they practice before every single meal, and which research has shown is one of the most effective strategies for maintaining a healthy weight and preventing metabolic disease without the misery of strict calorie counting or food restriction. And make sure your last meal of the day is at least 3 hours before your bedtime, because multiple studies have now shown that late-night eating disrupts your circadian rhythms, raises your overnight blood sugar, dramatically reduces the quality of your deep sleep, and increases your risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and even some cancers. A 2024 study from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine randomized 100 adults into 2 groups. One group ate their last meal at least 3 hours before bed, and the other group ate their last meal within 1 hour of bed. And after just 4 weeks, the early dinner group had significantly lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, lower insulin levels, better sleep quality, and higher levels of human growth hormone, which is essential for tissue repair and muscle maintenance. And they also reported feeling more energetic during the day and less hungry in the evening. The fifth habit, and this is the one that will completely change how you think about aging, and the one that my patients tell me has had the biggest impact on their lives after they implement it, is what researchers now call purpose-driven longevity. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Having a reason to wake up in the morning, having something that gets you out of bed, having a sense that your life matters and that you have something valuable to contribute to the world. Whether it is volunteering at a local school or food bank, mentoring a younger person in your field of expertise, caring for a grandchild or an aging parent, pursuing a creative passion like painting, writing, music, or woodworking, learning a new skill like a language or an instrument, or starting a small business or side project that gives you a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Multiple studies from Harvard University, the University of Michigan, and the University of California San Francisco have now shown that people with a strong sense of purpose have a 30% lower risk of cognitive decline and dementia, a 40% lower risk of heart attack and stroke, a 50% lower risk of depression and anxiety, and live significantly longer than those who feel their lives lack meaning. And these benefits persist even after controlling for every other known risk factor, including physical health, mental health, income, education, and social support. The mechanism behind this is now well understood. Having a sense of purpose activates the reward centers in your brain, reduces the activity of your body's stress response systems, lowers inflammation, improves immune function, and gives you a reason to stay physically active, socially engaged, and cognitively stimulated, all of which are independently protective against age-related decline. So, here is the bottom line. And here's what I want you to remember long after you have finished watching this video. And here's the message that I want you to share with everyone you love who is over 50 and worried about getting older. For the first time in human history, the conversation around aging has shifted from how long will I live to how well will I live. And scientists now have a word for this. They call it health span versus lifespan. And the goal is no longer just to add years to your life, but to add life to your years, to stay strong enough to play with your grandchildren, sharp enough to remember their names, engaged enough to have deep and meaningful conversations with the people you love, and independent enough to live in your own home and make your own decisions for as long as you possibly can. The Global Wellness Institute reports that adults over 50 are increasingly rejecting the term anti-aging because it implies that getting older is something to fight against, something to be ashamed of, something to hide, and instead they are embracing the term functional longevity or well-aging or proactive aging, which is the idea that aging well means preserving the physical, cognitive, and social capacities that actually matter for quality of life. Not the superficial markers of youth that the beauty industry wants you to obsess over. And the data proves that this approach works, not just in theory but in practice, with real people living real lives. Research shows that seniors who adopt these 5 habits, functional longevity training, interval walking, strong social connections, plant-forward eating with early dinners, and a strong sense of purpose, can live an impressive 8 to 12 years longer than those who do not, with a 25% reduction in age-related diseases, a 40% reduction in disability and loss of independence, and significantly higher scores on every measure of quality of life, happiness, and life satisfaction. None of these habits require expensive supplements, complicated meal plans, gym memberships, personal trainers, or any of the other things that the multi-billion-dollar anti-aging industry wants you to believe you need to spend money on. You can start all 5 of these habits today, in your own home, with no special equipment, and with no cost other than your time and your commitment. So here is your action plan, and I want you to take this seriously, because your future self will thank you for starting today rather than waiting for tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or next year. Starting today, get outside and walk for 30 minutes, but make it an interval walk, 3 minutes at a fast pace where you are slightly out of breath, followed by 3 minutes at a slow, comfortable pace, and repeat this pattern 5 times for a total of 30 minutes. Second, call a friend or a neighbor or a family member today, and schedule a regular weekly coffee, walk, meal, phone call, or video chat, not a text message, not a Facebook like, not an email, an actual voice conversation with a real human being who cares about you and who you care about, because your brain and your body need that real-time social connection to thrive. Third, eat your dinner at least 3 hours before your bedtime tonight, and make sure that at least half of your plate is filled with colorful vegetables, a quarter with lean protein, and a quarter with whole grains or healthy starches. And pay attention to how you feel when you wake up tomorrow morning compared to how you usually feel after a late dinner. Fourth, find one thing that gives you a sense of purpose and meaning. Volunteering at a local school or food bank, mentoring a young person in your field, taking care of a grandchild or an aging parent, Pursuing a creative passion like painting or writing or music, learning a new skill like a language or a musical instrument, or starting a small business or side project. And commit to doing it for just 2 hours a week, and watch how your energy, your mood, and your outlook on life transform. Fifth, and this is the most important of all, stop believing the lie that your age defines what you can and cannot do, because the most viral health videos of 2025 and 2026 are showing 60 and 70 and even 80-year-olds doing pull-ups, running marathons, practicing advanced yoga poses, lifting weights, dancing, hiking, traveling, starting new careers, falling in love, and living their absolute best lives. Not because they are superhuman or genetically blessed or wealthy enough to afford the best trainers and supplements, but because they refuse to believe the lie that aging means decline, that aging means giving up, that aging means sitting in a rocking chair waiting to die. They decided that their best years were still ahead of them, and they went out and proved it, not just to themselves but to everyone who knew them. And you can do the same thing, starting today, right now, with this one decision to take your health and your future into your own hands. If this video helped you see aging differently, if it gave you hope, if it made you realize that your best years are not behind you but in front of you, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit the like button on this video. It takes less than 1 second, and it tells the YouTube algorithm that this information is valuable, that it needs to be shown to more people who are scared of getting older and who need to hear that there is a better way. Second, subscribe to Dr. Voren and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a future video, because I am committed to bringing you the most up-to-date, science-backed, practical information on longevity, healthy aging, functional fitness, cognitive health, and living your best life at any age. And I read every single comment, and I answer as many as I possibly can. Third, share this video with someone you love who is over 50 and worried about getting older. Send them the link, tag them in the comments, post it on your social media. Tell them about it when you talk to them on the phone or see them in person, because this information is too important to keep to yourself. And you might be the one who gives them the hope and the knowledge and the motivation they need to transform their own health and their own future. And finally, leave me a comment telling me, which of these 5 habits are you going to start today? And what is the one thing you are most excited about doing in the next 10 years that you used to think you were too old for? I read every single comment, and your story might inspire someone else who is reading this and wondering if change is really possible for them too. Your body is not broken. Your best years are not behind you, and aging does not have to mean decline. Your second chance is waiting for you right now, but it will not wait forever. So take that first step today, because your second chance won't wait.